Hello everyone, I'm Nishiha Jasper David, pursuing my Masters in War Studies at King's College London. After completing my Masters in English Literature, I wanted to pursue my PhD in War Literature, but I realized that an in-depth understanding of war from historical perspective would help me comprehend the aspect of warfare in its entirety. Hence, I decided to do my second Masters at King's, since it's home to a world-renowned war studies department. I was keen on taking up this internship because I wanted to explore the various aspects of journalism. My previous encounter with the same was during my undergrad when I picked journalism as an optional module. That experience helped me hone my writing and editing while teaching me the art of storytelling. Before the draft, we were asked to complete the online certification course on digital journalism by Reuters. This was instrumental in understanding the efforts, planning, and coordination that goes behind articles we casually skim through. A range of information from legal documentation to etiquette during interview were covered, helping me shape this article with regard to professional standards. This article includes a podcast which elaborates on my personal interest with regard to the topic and an infograph to cater to the visual learners. With respect to the topic of my article, I have to elaborate on my personal connection to the Civil War. Regardless of the fact that I do not have a direct association with the war or the casualties, I was deeply affected by the constant news articles, documentaries, and reports of war crimes in Sri Lanka. I was 8 years old in the year 2009, the year that marked the end of the civil strife. The number of reports by the United Nations, Amnesty International, and institutes of that stature elucidated on the heinous crimes inflicted on the people. The United Nations estimates that around 40,000 innocent civilians were murdered during the final stage of the battle at the northern province of Sri Lanka. Since I was born and brought up in Tamil Nadu, a region intricately associated with the ethnic dispute, the discourse about this war was everywhere. In fact, this was the most significant event that piqued my interest in war literature, shaping my academic pursuits. I decided to cover the topic of mental health of the Civil War since it's mostly sidelined by the government or other research articles. Many countries still consider mental health as a taboo and a Western concept, resulting in the bad mental health infrastructure. It is a pity that most of the rebuilding eludes mental health awareness. As a chain reaction, there are hardly reports or statistics by the government about the mental health well-being or the actions taken by the government. My article covers the element of 2004 tsunami, which is otherwise overlooked within the mental health framework. This natural disaster was an unexpected blow to the country enmeshed in disturbing violence. Another significant part of my article highlights the negative influence of the war on children and their upbringing. I have touched upon topics like the forced conscription of children and young children being forced to take up the roles of adults after the death of their parents. Testimonies of victims reveal the barbarity of the fight. During the course, a lot of youngsters were used as child soldiers and suicide bombers, causing lifelong terror to their family. Mothers were forced to hide their young children in remote areas to keep them safe. Girls were raped, murdered, and photographed naked after their death. A lot of civilians were missing, and the families are dealing with the pain of never being able to see them again. The war was so brutal that makeshift hospitals and women lining to get milk powder were hit by shelling. A lot of people disappeared, and the government has not really done much to probe deeper or take actions to investigate about it. The sexual violence was rampant that during the course of war, the government appointed female guards for the safety of young girls. The terror of war was so bad that even health workers were mentally affected by the accounts recollected by the victims. Years of war has robbed childhood of an entire generation. The young children in 80s, 90s and early 2000s do not have a fond nostalgia of the past, as those days were warped in misery and misfortune. The constant reminder of the past affected the war victims, since every corner of the island nation reminds them of the horrible past. The people who could not escape from the country were adversely affected with no help, either judicial or medical. The estranged families added to the pain, as members of immediate family were settled and scattered across the globe. Communal love and social connectedness would help them overcome the demons from the past. But there is very little help from the government. The key takeaway from my article is the humanitarian work rendered by NGOs with regard to raising awareness about the influence of trauma in life. I have also included information about the insufficient funds for the implementation of the policies that would benefit the victims of war. An article titled "There is no such thing as a post-conflict environment" states, and I quote, "In reality, there is no such thing as a post-conflict environment. Conflict isn't something that simply ends, it is a continuum that lasts decades, even lifetimes. The term post-conflict suggests a neat conclusion to a messy situation, but for those living in fragile and conflict-affected environments, the experience is anything but tidy." End quote. Taking mental health seriously would help the country help its war victims look forward to a better future. In that regard, the time of the end of war should not be used to justify the neglect of mental health or the dilapidated funds, since time cannot heal the scars. The introduction of clinical psychology at the University of Colombo was a big step along the mental health review committee. More trained medical professionals and increased funds would help them to rebuild their lives, as post-conflict communities do not heal by themselves.